Hello there, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and page-turners they were not, but this is the podcast you're looking for.
Hello everyone, my name is Brennan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator. Welcome to A Larger World, presented by Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. We are about 2 months away from the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu, which comes out on May 22nd of this year. It's going to be a real treat to go back to the theater and see a Star Wars. Or to see a Star War, as Joseph Scrimshaw says. And I can't wait. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about was some of the real-world business around it. Now, I don't like to talk about business and those things. But something I've noticed is that a lot of people are apparently now box office experts. And there are a lot of people, even quote-unquote fans, who I think, in a way, want this movie to fail. Whether intentionally or unintentionally. There are a lot of naysayers. Now, mind you, there are always naysayers. And social media has given everyone the platform to say whatever they feel, or to just be obnoxious. Now, I don't know how the movie is going to do. I have no idea. But I suspect that it will be a success. How do I know this? Well, I don't. But what I do know is that The Mandalorian, as in Din Djarin and Grogu, are at the moment the most recognized Star Wars characters in the world. So I imagine that the movie will do well based on the fact that even people who are not the biggest Star Wars fans know who they are. I mean, good grief, all the kids know who they are, and all my nephews and nieces have Grogu clothes that I bought them, of course. And even me, a 40-year-old man, has Grogu bedsheets. Now, what's really going to matter with this film, more than anything, is getting the average filmgoer to see it. How well is that going to do? I have no idea. There has been considerable debate after the Super Bowl TV spot for the movie that you may recall, if you've seen it, is sort of a reference to the old Budweiser Clydesdale ads. And it's just a random thing of Mando and Grogu in a sleigh being pulled by tauntauns, with of all people Sam Elliott narrating. If you had told me Sam Elliott's going to narrate the Star Wars teaser, I don't think I would have believed it. And then, of course, the full trailer came out a few days later. Now, there was some debate about whether or not the full trailer should have been played during the Super Bowl. But it does seem that Super Bowl advertisements are not what they used to be. On a business level. Now, could they have released the full trailer during the Super Bowl? Yes. And that would have been awesome. But I don't know what effect that's going to have on the overall success of the movie. Now, like I said, I usually don't like to talk about box office and business. But in this case, I feel that I need to because, as I said earlier, there is almost a desire for the movie to fail. Which I find to be terribly unfortunate. That anyone would want this to be a disappointment. I understand that there are many people who are not happy with Star Wars right now. Other than Andor, to them, everything else sucks. Now, it's okay to have that opinion if you don't like the other Star Wars stuff. The other Star Wars storytelling, but you did like Andor, that's fine. But I think that there's a narrative that Star Wars is dead, and to be honest, people have been saying that for 25 years. Yeah, Phantom Menace came out and people said Star Wars is dead. The Clone Wars came out and people said Star Wars is dead. The sequel trilogy came out and people said Star Wars is dead. The Book of Boba Fett came out and people said Star Wars is dead. They've been banging that drum, and it's so funny because they're like, Star Wars is dead. Oh, except Andor. That was pretty good. Basically, point being, Star Wars is not dead. But I imagine that if this movie does not make a certain amount of money, they will say it's because nobody cared. And that simply is not the case. Now, I am not going to predict that the movie is going to make $1 billion. Now, maybe it will. Maybe it will make more than $1 billion. But I think given the nature of movies and the box office, I'm going to place my bet at $700 million. Now, that may seem kind of low for a Star Wars movie. But I think it's extremely important that we don't set our box office expectations too high. 2 years ago, if you had told me Barbie is going to make more than $1 billion, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny isn't going to make a lot of money, I would have said, you're insane. I would have said, of course Indiana Jones is going to make a lot of money. Well, it didn't. So basically the point being, the box office is extremely unpredictable nowadays. We are not living in the world that we were in 10 years ago as far as movies. So I think that The Mandalorian and Grogu does not need to make $1 billion to be a success. But I know that there are people lying in wait, waiting for it to quote-unquote disappoint, based on their own impossible standards. Okay, that's my soapbox. The other thing is, this is not Andor. We should not expect Andor. This is The Mandalorian. This is a fun, pulpy action-adventure serial in the tradition of A New Hope. This movie is going to be fun. I love Andor. Like all people, I think Andor is one of the best things I have ever seen on streaming. It might be the best thing. But that was a totally different tone than what The Mandalorian and Grogu is going for. Star Wars is a buffet with so many different choices. And they can't all be the same, or that would be boring. Further, they cannot all be Andor because some of us don't want to be depressed. If it was all Andor, we would be very depressed. But, point being, I think The Mandalorian and Grogu will be a success. I think it's important that we do not set our expectations as far as the box office is concerned. That we do not set our monetary expectations so high that they can't be reached. Now, I know that there are movie news insiders, people who are really into the box office numbers, who are going to be waiting on that opening weekend to say, oh, it didn't make as much as we thought it would make. And then start panicking like Chicken Little. Running around screaming, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. I think movie news reporting like that is irresponsible because if the reports go around saying bomb, failure, disappointment, underperformed, the average person might be turned off to seeing the movie. Now, maybe this movie will be a big box office hit. But at the same time, it's important to temper our expectations. But putting all this business and money aside, I am so excited for this movie. I think it's going to be a good, fun time. I don't want to speculate too much on the story, but I do like that the trailer showed us Pedro Pascal. That he is indeed in this movie. That's a long story, I won't go into it. Point being, I don't really care too much about the money. yes, it's important for a movie to do well financially. What I care about is the story, the themes, the characters that we know and love, new characters, reintroduced characters, and just the fun adventure that is Star Wars. With Andor, we need to remember that in the beginning, Star Wars was a fun action pulp adventure with deep overtones about fighting authoritarianism and the philosophy of faith and existence. I suspect that this movie will deal with those themes. But regardless, I can't wait to go to the theater again and get to experience the fun of Star Wars on the big screen. So those are my thoughts on the Mandalorian and Grogu and the unfortunate almighty box office. My name is Brennan Marr, that noise you're hearing is my ventilator. Thank you for tuning in to A Larger World, presented by Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.